Welcome into Hockey Sense, everybody. We're coming to you live from Vancouver today on our Friday tradition brought to you by First Community. Thanks for hanging out. We got a good show for you. Jamal Mayers is going to join us. David Backes is going to join us. I'm not going to spend a super long time here on the opening monologue as we have March Madness taking place this time of year. The general manager meetings were this past week, and so much talk about goaltender interference, the Radko Gudas situation with Austin Matthews. Everyone's got an opinion on everything. Russia's participation in international tournaments, which I did put on Twitter earlier in the week, that there are countries who have told the National Hockey League, we will not participate if Russia's involved. And there was a report after that about specific countries naming, I believe Finland was in there, maybe Czechia. There were some other countries potentially mentioned who were not going to participate or made it clear that they would not participate as long as Russia's involved. I don't know which countries, but I was told that by a very good source with the National Hockey League. And I truly believe that's where we're at right now. I don't think the NHL is anti-Russia. I don't think the NHL is sitting there and saying we don't want Russia's best players participating in the tournament. I mean, Russia's best players are truly some of the best players in the world and some of the best players in the National Hockey League. That goes without saying. Do we really need to go over it and talk about Kucherov and Bobrovsky and everybody else that comes from Russia, Malkin? I mean, there's just so many great players who are Russian. Panarin. I mean, it would be fantastic to be able to watch Russia take on like a team like USA or Canada, but doesn't look like it's going to happen for the World Cup either, which is just crazy to me. Unless the war in Ukraine is over. This isn't an Olympic event. This is kind of a NHL sanctioned event when you talk about the World Cup. I mean, they're talking about separate TV packages and all this other stuff going on. In an effort to generate revenue and generate money, you really want to make money, you get Russia involved. And I just wonder if some of these countries are bluffing. Oh, we're not going to participate as long as Russia's involved. Do we really believe them? Would they really pull out? Like, say Sweden, for example, if they were to say, hey, we're not going to play if Russia's involved, would that really take place if you had the most popular Swedish players go into their federation and be like, no, screw that, we are going to play? Anyway, so unfortunately, as a hockey fan, Ovechkin, everybody, you're just not going to be able to see what we had hoped. Truly best on best. And again, I'm not getting political. I'm not talking about the war in Ukraine. I'm not getting into that at all. But as a hockey fan, man, we are certainly missing out by not including Russia in these international tournaments. So we'll see if that changes moving forward. The Blues don't play again till Saturday. Very strange road trip for St. Louis because they had a couple days off after Winnipeg before the Calgary game. And then now a couple days off before they play Vancouver. All these days off. And it's raining. We can't even get sunshine out here in British Columbia. Hopefully the weather's a little nicer today, but it doesn't look like it's going to be. It's raining right now. It's been raining the entire time that we've been here. The Blues are going to practice today. And then obviously prepare themselves for an afternoon game tomorrow. 6 o'clock, dropping the puck St. Louis time, but 4 o'clock out west here. So that's where we're at. But David Backes is going to join us. Same with Jammer. I've got so many questions. Two very smart hockey people. David was always heavily involved behind the scenes. He's always got great opinions. His entire career was built off of playing around the blue paint. But he's also very intelligent. So he's going to have an opinion or two on where we're at with headshots, goalie interference, and some of the other stuff that created headlines coming out of the GM meetings. Find it interesting, Eric Tulsky, general manager of the Carolina Hurricanes, that he was the one GM to kind of go at it a little bit with Commissioner Gary Bettman. And Tulski's been on the Candlestick podcast. Gary Bettman, I just did a fireside chat with him about 2 weeks ago. We talked for about 90 minutes down at Union Station in St. Louis. Had a great crowd. Place was sold out. Uh, People from all over the country at the Sports Business Journal forum that we had hosted in St. Louis. They have it in a different city every year. It kind of bounces around. They're based out of Charlotte, North Carolina. Different location every year for their big national convention that they have. And it just so happened that it was in St. Louis this year. I was asked to moderate the conversation with Gary Bettman. And you learn a lot, obviously, from Gary. And I love the fact that Gary stands behind his people. He protects George Peros and company. And I'm a big George Peros supporter, too. I don't get as emotional as a lot of other people, and it's always interesting because the whole Austin Matthews thing with Radko Gudas, people are asking for the league to essentially throw the book at Gudas. It's the second longest knee suspension that we've seen in recent memory. The closest was a 7-game suspension that was handed down to Matt Cook. I don't put Gudas in the same category as Matt Cook when you take the careers side by side. I just don't do it. Gudas hasn't been suspended in over 7 seasons. That's how long it's been. Over 7 years for Radko Gudas. Never had a kneeing issue. I believe most of his suspensions had been stick infractions, head contact, illegal hits to the head and whatnot. And don't get me wrong, he did have a reputation, and to a lesser extent still does, as a dirty player. We've had Gudas on the Candlestick podcast too. Great conversations with him. And what you want to see from some of these guys is their ability to adjust to the rules and to play a clean game and avoid suspension. And that's what Gudas has done. So they gave him 5 games. I don't know what people want. I threw it out on X, which I don't think I've ever said X. I always say Twitter, but I'm learning to say X when it comes to Twitter. That I truly believe the way the media has reacted and the way the fans are reacting, that without saying it, they want a different set of rules for these type of plays or infractions that involve superstar players. If this wasn't Austin Matthews, I don't think it'd be created nearly as much noise. If it wasn't in Toronto, we all know that it wouldn't be creating nearly as much noise. So you have to really take that out of it. I think if you're George Peros, and I was texting with him yesterday, man. I'm hoping we can get him on, right back on the Chemistry podcast and have a good conversation with him, just to allow everyone to kind of understand his side of things. And I do support the player safety. I think they do a hell of a job for the most part. It's a thankless. I think it's the worst job in hockey, not in the sense that nobody should ever do it, but it's almost like there's a no-win situation when you're the head of player safety. All you're going to do is take criticism, take heat, have people mad at you, have people upset. You're kind of on an island. I would imagine you feel somewhat isolated, even though you have a staff and you're meeting with your staff all the time. And you do have support internally from your staff. And I would imagine George Peros feels good that Gary Bettman comes out and speaks publicly at the GM meetings in Florida and stands behind Peros and his staff. I think that's incredibly important that Gary Bettman does that. So I like that. But I'm kind of confused what people want. What, you want this guy to get a 10-game suspension? I mean, listen, when you slow down the play, it looks really, really bad. And it was a bad play. Definitely an illegal play, an illegal hit. He didn't play that legally on Austin Matthews, Radko Gudas. So I didn't like the hit. It was a dirty play. He deserves to be suspended. But if there was no injury on the play, what would people be saying? I still think it would be a 1 or 2 game suspension. So with the injury, they increased it to 5 games. He's going to miss. This is a critical time of the year to be sitting out, especially with Anaheim just trying to secure a playoff spot for the first time in several years. I like Anaheim, by the way. So anyway, so that's where we're at. So I'm going to get the opinion of Jamal, probably ask David Backes too, and get their take on it. And just where we're headed right now, what they like and what they don't like with some of the explanations that we all received this past week from the National Hockey League. Was that sufficient enough or not? Um, I don't know how much Blues I really want to get into on this edition of Hockey Sense. Would have been nice if they could win that game, get 2 points in Calgary. They badly outplayed Winnipeg, didn't get the 2 points. So you lose these games. I did say, I think last week, that it was almost like a must win. They had to sweep this road trip to truly stay in the mix. So they get 1 point against Calgary. Just a crazy game, though. I mean, I've never seen a game where you had 3 goals called back, 3 successful challenges by the Blues. Great job by the Blues video staff. Although even as Gary Bettman or as Jim Montgomery said after the game, he said the offsides ones, those are pretty easy to tell. And the first one certainly was when Parayko threw the puck up the middle of the ice. That was a miscommunication, by the way. He's obviously expecting, I would imagine, his D partner to put himself in position to receive the pass. They were not on the same page. And the result was a pizza right up the middle of the ice. But it was clear as day that the puck came out of the zone. Those linesmen had a tough game, because I was told that there were at least a couple of other instances after the third challenge that was overturned, the third goal that was brought back, that Calgary had scored. They put 4 pucks in the net. They only got credit for 1. It was just crazy. But even after that, I was told there were other plays where the referees or the linesmen, they missed the offsides, and if Calgary would have scored on a couple of other occasions later in the game, that they would have challenged, and those goals would have been called back and reversed. So we could have had 4 or 5 of them during the course of the game, which would have been crazy. And speaking of Austin Matthews, I wanted to point that out. He did have MCL surgery, underwent surgery this past week. So they do expect him to be available and be ready when the season starts next year. Where's he going to be playing, though? I guess he's probably still in Toronto. But it's only a matter of time before he gets his way out of there. And same with Brady Tkachuk. I keep saying that about Brady. Brady's going to end up leaving Ottawa. It's only a matter of time before some of these guys get out of their current situation. And I do think the NHL, you're going to start to see, um, much like we see in the NBA, where you see these guys team up with one another and create these power teams, whether it's Kevin Durant or LeBron James or Westbrook, whoever it is. Harden, all these guys have tried to align themselves and put themselves in the best situation to win. I just think we're headed that way. The NHL players come into the league closer than ever with other players. And I think a lot of that has to do with the National Team Development Program on the U.S. side, where these guys go to high school together. I mean, we all know the relationships you forge with one another when you go to high school, essentially living with one another. When you're 16, 17 years old, away from your parents, most teenagers aren't doing that. They're living at home in their high school years as they go through high school. These guys at the National Team Development Program, they grow up very quickly, and they're essentially on their own, living with their families and whatnot. So they become very, very close. And then you tack on the Olympics, where they just hung out together for 2 weeks, and how much time they spend together at the Olympics. These guys are so tight. So I think they look at it and they say, listen, wouldn't it be amazing if we could actually play together in the NHL? So you look at a Quinn Hughes and Brady Tkachuk, how close they are with one another. And I could just easily see the two of them choosing to sign with the same team. Maybe that would be New Jersey. It actually would make sense because of Jack being there, but also the fact that Brady Tkachuk's wife is from there. He's got a house in New Jersey. I would imagine he would fully be on board with playing with the New Jersey Devils. It would make sense for he and his family, and it would make sense for Quinn Hughes. I would never rule out Minnesota. Billy Guerin's going to be as aggressive as they come around the National Hockey League in terms of adding more and more superstars. He's got Kaprizov coming on the books at $17 million per year. They keep Quinn. If he's able to get Quinn Hughes to be signed with Minnesota, what's that number going to look like? Quinn Hughes, by the way, could end up winning the Norris Trophy. Not many guys get traded in season and win a big league award like that. I was reading something today about it, especially when it comes to defensemen winning the Norris. You just don't see that. We did see Joe Thornton win the Hart Trophy a few years back. The year that he won it, with San Jose. He actually got traded from Boston that season. So we have seen stuff like that happen before. Um, Big shout out to Jimmy Snuggerud, who was the NHL's third star of the week, man. I had a great conversation with him the other day and Robert Thomas about playing with one another. And he said the only thing he can compare playing with Thomas to was his time playing with Logan Cooley at Minnesota, and they played together at the U.S. program too. Cooley's super dynamic, plays a little bit different than Thomas, but when you're playing with a guy like Robert Thomas, you just have your stick on the ice and be ready for it at all times. And he says that's the biggest challenge. Expect the puck all the time. But that's a gift if you're a big goal scorer like Jimmy Snuggerud, a guy who obviously can put the puck in the net. And he just loving playing with Robert Thomas. But when I asked Robert Thomas, I said, "Hey, I want to talk about Snuggerud." He said, "Let's do it. I got all day." Yeah, he'll talk about Snuggerud and Dylan Holloway. Holloway's not getting enough attention right now either. Scored another goal the other day against Calgary in his hometown, but he's just been quietly productive since coming back from that high ankle sprain since the Olympic break. He tried to come back early, if you remember, and obviously wasn't able to. Played one game and then missed several more games after that. I think all in all, Holloway, what he missed, like 23 or 24 games, somewhere around that range. But they may have found something with these three guys. You're just getting no secondary scoring right now. Kyrou isn't scoring. Kyrou looks like he's just has zero chemistry with whoever he's playing with. He's trying to find it. But the line with him and Dvorsky, it hasn't worked. And Neighbors on that line too. Neighbors has kind of gone cold. They really need some of that production from these guys. They need Jake Neighbors to score. He almost scored the other night. He hit the crossbar, and that would have been like a vintage type of goal for Jake Neighbors. Those are the type of goals that he needs to be able to score. Find loose pucks in and around the net, just bury it. I remember when Jake Neighbors was a rookie. I talked about it on this show over and over how he showed the ability, not just as a rookie, but his first couple years in the league. Like, this guy showed the ability to score goals in so many different ways. He could score net front goals, deflections. He would score goals off the rush, fast break goals. He had a little quick little deceptive shot that he could shoot in stride that would beat goaltenders. And so, yeah, that's dried up a little bit right now for Jake Neighbors. But it'd be nice to get him going. I wouldn't mind to see Jordan Kyrou and Jonathan Drouin play together. I just wonder. Drouin stands out for me. And I know we've seen other players who have come through the Blues in recent years, and people bring up like Jakob Verana and some of these other guys. But Kasperi Kapanen, like, he's found a role with Edmonton. He can play. There's a reason why the Blues kept him around. And he got hot his first year with Pittsburgh. Coming over from Pittsburgh. And he's got a nice little role that he's been able to carve out for himself in Edmonton. Texier, to a lesser extent, with Montreal, but we all know his first couple weeks there, he looked like a good fit with the Canadiens. So some of these guys the Blues have moved on from. I mean, they've proven they can play in the National Hockey League. But could Drouin and Kyrou establish some chemistry? I watched Jonathan Drouin on this team. He stands out. Like, he just plays with some composure, plays like an NHL player. He gets the puck on his stick. He makes plays. Things kind of happen. He definitely is skilled. He has such a strong reputation coming out of juniors being a playmaker. And he definitely puts up more assists than he does goals throughout the course of his career. But could he potentially get something going with Jordan Kyrou? I don't know. But they need some other players to score. You can't just live off of one line. We all know that. How about Pius Suter? I'm all for angry Pius Suter the other day. I just love the passion that he showed. A part of it could have been frustration on his part because he entered the game playing on the fourth line. I don't think we've seen him play on the fourth line all season. Blues have so many guys right now. I mean, that is a challenge, and it's not easy as the head coach for Jim Montgomery to find a way to get all these guys in the lineup Management wants to see certain or specific players play, and Otto Stenberg, for example. But this guy Jonathan Berggren, like he was so good in the 2 games before he just sat out in Calgary. He was good in against Edmonton. He was good in Winnipeg. Had a couple of assists in back-to-back games, points in back-to-back games. Then he couldn't even get in the lineup in Calgary. Nathan Walker not in the lineup. Oscar Sundqvist, he's having trouble getting in the lineup. So I get it, especially on the defensive side. I think it's a little easier on the defensive side with Lindstein playing every game. I want to see him continue to play. Can really skate. That Lindstein obviously has some room to grow, but the guys that are on the outside looking in right now are Justin Holl, who probably doesn't factor into the plans here in St. Louis moving forward, although you just never know. See how that plays out. But just trying to use an educated guess. And then Matt Kessel, who's in the final year of his contract. Got a guy who was drafted in the first round. He's going to get an opportunity to play. Talking to some scouts, like Lindstein, he's better in the National Hockey League than he is in the American League. And we've always heard that about certain guys. But he's played better up here. Playing with Colton Parayko probably helps. You got to give guys like Parayko and even Cam Fowler some credit when they've been asked to play with some young, inexperienced players. That's not always easy. And, Fowler played so much with Logan Mailloux earlier in the season. Now you're seeing Mailloux get an opportunity to play with Broberg, which he's truly taking advantage of. Just playing with Philip Broberg with his ability to skate is just incredible. It's unbelievable watching Broberg skate. Like he doesn't dance around like Lane Hudson, for example, or Quinn Hughes, or even like a McCarr, for example. And he doesn't skate like that, but his straight line skating and his ability to escape pressure and just beat people up the ice is as impressive as any defenseman in the league. The next challenge for Broberg, I'd like to see him turn his skating and his ability to transport the puck into offensive production. If he could start scoring, and if these rushes, electrifying rushes that we see from Philip Broberg, can you turn those into goals where the puck ends up in the back of the net? That's the biggest challenge. Or the next step, I would say. Not even challenge, but the next step for Philip Broberg. But Drouin, listen, I get what he is, trust me. It's just when you bring these guys here, he just stands. He knows how to play the game. So we'll see if he's going to be in the lineup tomorrow against Vancouver and what that lineup looks like. All right. Jamal Mayers coming up. We got David Backes coming up. He's going to be participating in that puck cancer event that Kelly Chase is putting on. Had a chance to talk to Chaser the other day. By the way, the Tampa Bay Lightning are here at the hotel. Hung out with John Cooper last night for a little bit. Had a great conversation. One of the best things I had seen. And I'll talk about it on Cam and Strick as well. But it was late. And there's really nobody around. The lobby is just completely empty. And Jordan Binnington walked in. The Blues had a team dinner last night. I believe it was Philip Broberg who sponsored the dinner after signing his big contract. You see players do that. Love it. It's great for team camaraderie and all that. But in comes Jordan Binnington. And to see the embrace between he and John Cooper and see them hug and the mutual respect they have for one another. And there's nobody in the world that saw that outside of me and a couple of people. I'll never forget that, man. And I thought it was great. And the confidence that Cooper gives Binnington and how Binnington performed in the Olympics playing for him and how much admiration there is between the two of them. Love seeing that. So it's great to be able to see John Cooper. It's great to see the Tampa Bay Lightning who are here at the hotel. They're off to take on Edmonton. I think they traveled to Edmonton today. They've got back-to-back games against Edmonton and Calgary. It's a long travel. Tampa Bay all the way up here in the Pacific Northwest or Western Canada. All right. First Community brings us Hockey Sense each and every week. I'll be back at the Half Cup Studios next week. Then the following week, I'm back on the road and then pretty much back in studio the rest of the way. Are you thinking about retirement? Are you thinking about retirement? So you think about retirement, it's something that people do when they're much older. Is that what you say? Like, hey, people who are older than me think about retirement. But listen, you gotta start thinking about it. It's never too early. Never too early to start saving for retirement. An individual retirement account. You hear about that individual retirement account. It's an IRA. Can potentially put tax deferred savings away for you for your retirement and lock in some great rates. You can also open a health savings account to build a cushion for those unexpected or routine medical expenses. So First Community offers all of that. IRA, HSA accounts, no cost for you to open up these accounts. Some eligibility requirements, but now's a great time to learn more about it. Check it out, firstcommunity.com. Also, if you run a business, I'm talking to you right now. Are you ready to take your business to the next level? First Community, they offer competitive rates on commercial loans, lines of credit, commercial credit cards designed to help your business thrive. So ask about that too. If you own a small business, go meet with somebody face to face. First Community, been in business for over 90 years. So they want to see your business grow just like their business has grown. And they're right there in town in St. Louis, so you can deal with them face to face. So do that today. Dirt Cheap Fun Fun, your one-stop party shop. Download the app and do it today. Download the app and do it today. Dirt Cheap Fun Fun, your one-stop party shop. Don't sleep on the party supplies over there with Dirt Cheap. If you've got graduation parties, anything else that's coming up, you have Easter around the corner, they've got everything. Decorations, paper goods, everything you're looking for. You can get all of that at Dirt Cheap. Find a location nearest you. Get all the great deals that you can get on their app, but you have to have the app to get the best deals. Free delivery if you live within 10 miles of a specific location, and there's a bunch of locations. You'll see it on the app. Use the promo code Blues Hockey. You get that free delivery if you live within 10 miles. They've got the best selection of beer, wine, and booze. They've got that walk-in beer cooler. So check it all out at Dirt Cheap Fun Fun, your one-stop party shop. Lordo's Diamonds, get that special someone something special in your life over at Lordo's Diamonds and lordosdiamonds.com. Say hi to Mike and Jimmy. Say hi, Mike and Jimmy. These guys are the best. Are you looking to pop the question? Best selection of engagement rings. They've got anniversary jewelry. They got great jewelry for men as well. If you're looking to get a chain, you want a new watch, great selection of watches. Right there in the heart of Ladue. You can't miss it. 314-432-8008. LordosDiamonds.com. Say hi to Mike and Jimmy today. You walk in there with a $100,000 budget or a $100 budget. Guess what? You're going to get treated exactly the same. No judgment, man. Mike and Jimmy Lordo, two of the greatest people you will ever meet. Stop on into Lordo's Diamonds. Tell them that I sent you. Easy Tiger Cannabis. Are you kidding me? Look for them at a location near you. Easy Tiger. They got everything you need. Top shelf, man. Top shelf when it comes to the great products that you find with Easy Tiger. Born in Arizona, but they're expanding all over the place. You're going to see Easy Tiger, their high-end premium cannabis products. Top shelf flower, smooth, flavorful, absolute sniper from the blue line. They're live rosin. No enforcers, no fourth line energy here, just elite level quality across the board with Easy Tiger. Great gear too. Get a hoodie or a hat. Clean, stylish. So check that out, Easy Tiger. Premium cannabis. Major league standards. So they're coming to a store near you. So look for the Easy Tiger label. It's not just cannabis, it's the lifestyle. I always tell people that. Whatever you need it for medical reasons, sleep, anxiety, they've got great trained professionals who can certainly help you. Designed to look good on and off the ice. It's not like loud or gimmicky like you see some of these other cannabis brands where you're like flaunting it. You're like, it's a little much. No, this is confident, refined stuff. EasyTiger.com. Check it out. EasyTigerAZ.com. But soon to be everywhere, not just in Arizona. Great to have Easy Tiger, Nick DeStefani, Space, all the boys here on board with us on Hockey Sense, brought to you by First Community. Blue Note Roofing, David Novak, baby, 314-920-5713. Blue Note Roofing. David Novak is the absolute best. Deals with all the biggest insurance companies to get you the best deal. Little secret, little hockey sense secret for you. If your roof is approaching 10 years of age, now's the best time to get that new roof. Some insurance companies won't pay for it once it gets to 10 years. So if it's 8 years old, get that free estimate. You might need a new roof and do it through Blue Note Roofing and do it now while the insurance company's going to pay for it. 314-920-5713. David Novak, big supporter of hockey in St. Louis. Look for that big yellow truck with the Blue Note, that old school, iconic musical note that you find on his truck. Again, David Novak, 314-920-5713. Blue Note Roofing, baby, brings us hockey sense each and every week. All right, let's step aside. Jamal Mayers joins me next. Hockey sense coming to you live from Vancouver, baby. Jammer, next. In studio, stay with us. Jamal Mayers in studio. The roles are reversed. Normally I'm in studio, you're on remote. This is the exact opposite.
Yeah, I feel comfortable in here, I gotta be honest. It's a little strange not having you here because 'cause I'm used to sitting beside you, but, I see you're on the road in the wilderness. Is that a framed picture or is that an actual window behind you?
You can't even tell, can you?
I can't.
That is a framed picture. It looks like it's a real window. And
It does.
the only thing that would give it away is I haven't seen the sunlight in days
That's
here in
not good.
Vancouver.
Well, your voice is a little coarse, but, that's what will happen when you're on the road for a week and only have 3 games.
I know, but it's also earlier here.
That's true.
And I got my time zone. I woke up way earlier than I even needed to. So, but it allowed me to prepare and be ready to go for this edition of Hockey Sense brought to you by First Community. Um, a lot of stuff to get into. I don't think last week we didn't get into the Radko Gudas hit, right?
We didn't.
On Austin Matthews. And it's interesting. I've been texting with George Peros a little bit too. Like, I don't- why does everybody get so crazy? I mean, listen, I didn't love the hit, but when you really dive into it and say, okay, well, this guy hasn't been suspended in over 7 seasons. They gave him the second longest kneeing suspension in recent memory, 5 games. I think the longest one was Matt Cook. He got 7 games several years ago. Um, and Gudas, all his previous suspensions, again, over 7 years ago, this guy has obviously made a conscious effort to adjust his game. Those were all either stick infractions or hits to the head, illegal headshots, or whatever. So, do people want different rules, a different set of rules if it involves a superstar? That's the way I read into this. If it's a Toronto player or it's a superstar, then it just creates so much noise. Did you have a problem with the 5 gamer?
No, the only I'm not gonna throw shade on George Peros because I think he's got a really difficult job. The only thing I will say is that, in my opinion, where he went wrong is he should have made it an in-person hearing. Because an in-person hearing, as you know, would have given him the latitude to go either direction.
Yeah.
And because it was just a phone hearing, the max was 5 games. And I know that you look at and I do think there should be different rules for injuring a star player. That's the reality. That's people pay tickets to go watch the best players. They're the reason why fans are there for the most part. So as a player, I was always okay if the rules were a little bit different for the best players. They're the reason why we made what we made. They're the reason why people go watch them. They're not going there to watch the referees, as Peelsy likes to think, and they're not there to watch me. No, they're there to watch the star players,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah.
that's how I've always felt about it. And I don't think that any player playing currently would think that that's not the case. Let's be honest. There's times where I wouldn't get penalized. I wouldn't get a call against me when I had a clear break. And it's like there's different rules within the game for the best players. And I think as a player, you understand that that's the case. In the case of Radko Gudas, he's a physical player. My rule 100% of the time, and I like to think that I was a physical player, was that if I couldn't get at least half of you, that meant I missed. So to me, the onus is on Gudas to make sure he doesn't get a piece of him. It means he missed. So if you miss, you can't stick out your knee, you can't stick out your elbow, you can't stick out your arm. You missed.
Hmm.
And there's many times where I missed in open ice. And I think that um, that's how I see it. I think that the onus is on Gudas. I would have been fine if it was 10 or 12 games. I think that if George gave himself that latitude and made it 10 or 12, I don't think anyone would be saying anything about this right now. I think 5 doesn't feel like enough because Matthew's season has ended.
Okay. And that's a fair opinion, because there's no doubt that it was an illegal play. It's a dirty play, right? So,
Well,
um, it's interesting when you watch it in slow motion versus watching in real speed. But yeah, I don't know, man. That's a tough one. He's still, hey, listen, 5 games is still 5 games in a critical time of the year with Anaheim, obviously, and he's their captain, right? This is not some like just a goon who runs around. This is the captain of the Anaheim Ducks, who's one of the better teams in the Western Conference. So they're going to miss him while he's out, and obviously wait to get him back. I didn't ask you, like, Patty Maroon created a lot of headlines up in Toronto with his comment about why it's more difficult to play in Toronto versus other cities, and he said that, hey, there's like 25 guys in the locker room and whatnot. But I did follow it up. It got a lot of attention about what Roman Polak had told me years ago. I know I shared that with you in the past about, feeling he didn't feel that much pressure in Toronto, although he wasn't on great teams in Toronto, but he felt greater pressure, like in St. Louis, for example, maybe Dallas, where he played, where the expectations internally were greater, and you had greater expectations in practice. Every day you come to the rink, from the general manager, from the owner, from the teammates around you, because you were on teams that were expected to win versus worrying about what somebody's writing about you or what they're saying on radio. You played in Toronto. And actually, after I tweeted that out, Pat Maroon, like, he's texting me and he's like, listen, that's exactly what I'm saying. So, I mean, like, I don't know. Sometimes you don't always articulate it the way how you're trying to say it. But I understood what he was saying. How do you look at that, Jim? I know you played there. You weren't on great teams in Toronto, but you played on great teams here in St. Louis. How did you view the pressure of playing in a market like that?
I think that when you give the power to the media and to the external sources, um, then it can weigh on you. I think it's an individual's choice to block it out, to not be a part of that. But you can't. It's very tricky, and I'll tell you why. The players, in my opinion, that have a tough time, I think, take too much of the good when it comes in. They like it a little too much when the good things are happening, so that they don't balance it properly when the negative is coming in. Does that make sense?
Hmm.
So they have to, in my opinion, individual players have to filter in when they're praising you too much in a market like Toronto, so that when they are now saying bad things about you, you're not taking all that in either. I think that's where players go wrong. Um, I also do think there is and I talked to Brian Burke about this, is about insulating the group a little bit differently. And what I mean by that is there are rules. There are rules in regard to when you have access to the players after practice, after games. And it wasn't necessarily about me. It's more about the star players and the consistency of like having to do it over and over and over again. I think creating a system where you're protecting those guys organizationally is really important so that they don't get bogged down by the negativity every single day with 30 different reporters in front of them. And I think that some teams do it well and some teams don't. But I think that those are the two factors I think are very important, um, because I think that there's a lot of really good things that come out of playing in a place like Toronto when you're winning. But there's pressure, but I think that to me it's on each individual, and how they're accepting of those accolades and how they're accepting of the negativity. I think that
Yeah.
you have to be careful there.
Yeah, there's no doubt. Um, Listen, I'm not an idiot. I would imagine there is a lot of pressure and there's so much attention on you in those markets. You can't compare playing in a market like San Jose, St. Louis, Columbus to playing in Toronto or Montreal. But at the same time, I think it's circumstantial. If you've got great leaders and veterans around you in some of these other markets where the expectation is to win a Stanley Cup, if it's Stanley Cup or bust, then I'm sure you're carrying that pressure with you too. And sometimes that can be heavier than maybe even dealing with a lot of the media and scrutiny that you deal with, and
But isn't that what every athlete wants? Every player that
yeah.
is worth the salt wants? Don't you want to be playing in the biggest market in the biggest moments and have that's fun.
Mm,
And I think that it's all a matter of your perspective. I think that if you lose, they didn't handle the pressure. If you
right.
win, like it's all about that, right? Winning and losing.
Mhm. What do you think of the playoff format, Jammer? 1 through 8. Now everyone's talking about that all the time. Gary Bettman doubled down on that at the GM meetings too, saying he loves the first round matchups. It's the most exciting first round in all the professional sports, which it is. I love the first round in the Stanley Cup playoffs. It's unbelievable. And maybe you would still have that regardless, but do you have an issue with it? You played in an era where it wasn't always like, I guess you played in both eras, right?
Yeah, I played in both. I like the way it is. I think sometimes we can overreact, if you will. It's unfortunate, particularly in the Central this year, right? That's the real issue. You're looking at Colorado, Dallas, and Minnesota. So that's the issue that you're dealing with is that the 2-3 matchup that's going to happen in the Central, that's unfortunate. I think what has to happen is you you keep it the way it is. It's unfortunate. It just changes how you evaluate what success is. Because you can't tell me, let's say Minnesota beats Dallas
Mhm.
and they play in the first round. Are you telling me that that's a disappointing season for Dallas? No. Are they going to overreact in how they evaluate their group and their team and how much they were and still are a true Stanley Cup contender? No. So I think it just changes. I think what needs to change is the narrative that it's a negative season if you lose in the first round. I think you got to put it in context. And I don't think you can overreact as an organization if you do lose in the first round. If you have 100, they're going to have 110 points.
I know.
So it's
I
like,
know.
yeah, I just think that it's unfortunate. The only thing I would suggest is a reseeding perhaps in the second round.
Mm.
So you give those teams a carrot for what the regular season has meant. I think that would change things so that you help those teams that had tremendous years get to a conference final.
Yeah, I do hear some people say, well, yeah, you have these tough matchups, but then the coaches are getting losing their jobs and it's on their resume that they can't get out of the first round. But listen, for me, this is not about the coaches.
No,
It's about the players, So and it is what it is. I don't mind it. I went through it for several years when the Blues were very competitive, and David Backes, who's coming on the show after you, like he can talk about this too. Like there were years where the Blues had to play against Chicago every year in the first round of the playoffs. Both teams had over 100 points every year. Blues couldn't get past Chicago. Nobody talked about it then, Jammer. You know
yeah,
what I mean?
exactly. Well, you know what? A
It's
lot of
new.
people are listening to Billy Guerin. He's a smart hockey guy. He's a passionate guy. He loves his team. He's built a fantastic team there. They're taking their shot here in the next 2 or 3 years. Now that they, not uncertainty of whether Quinn is going to stay or not. This is their load up moment, and good on him for the changes and building a great team that is going to try to win a Stanley Cup now. And so, but when he looks at his path and he realizes they're not going to catch Colorado, it does sting. So it doesn't make it easy that they have to face, likely they're going to face Dallas in the first round.
Yeah. Did you see the other day? Excuse me. In Calgary, the Calgary scored 3 goals that were turned back, that were disallowed. Blues challenged 3 different times, and they won every challenge. And I said this before you came on too, that the video coaches actually, there were other examples after that where Calgary would have scored where they were offsides again. Like it was a tough night for the linesman, Jamal. They just had a tough one that night. But anyway, it was hilarious to see this happen in real time and to see so many. They put 4 pucks in the net, only got credit for 1.
Well, there's a lot of pressure on these video coaches now because you know what? I'm sure they're keeping score around the league with each other. I would think they were. They're all competitive guys and girls that are, you know, doing that job. And I think that they understand the magnitude of it and how important it is, and especially the moment of the game, and get, you know, the coach trusting the video coach to make that call. That takes a lot of guts to do that 3 times in a row and trusting your video coach. Like, are you sure? Again? And give them credit that they have that trust and familiarity with each other, because in the moment that couldn't have been easy for Monty to make that decision. um Interested to pick his brain on how he comes to that decision each time, because that could not have been easy. Think about it, in real time, and the second
Yeah.
time, really, and now a third time, really. And so, um great job by them, you know. And it's I always make a note when I'm doing a game, doing color, to make sure I highlight and know the names of those folks, because
Yeah.
every third game they come up and they make a call, right or wrong, where most times they're on the right side of it, where they make that call for the head coach, and I just want to point out their name because they're an important part of the coaching staff.
Yeah, no doubt. We did that the other night just during the game. Although Monty says with all the camera angles that they have, the offsides are pretty easy to catch.
Right.
Those ones are easy, but the high stick that it was Connor Zari, I believe, who deflected the puck, obviously above his shoulders and then touched it a second time before they got possession. They scored. That one was really impressive to me because you couldn't really tell if a Blues player had touched it or, I guess they would need possession of the puck for the play for it to all this for the goal to count. If you touch it with a high stick, if you're Calgary, then St. Louis gets possession. Even though they touch it, but they don't have possession, it still wouldn't have counted. But that was impressive to me that they were able to catch that one. So, and the offsides are always impressive to me too. But once they challenge for offsides, Jamal, you know that hey, the goal's coming back, and they hardly ever get that one wrong.
Yeah, they don't. And I think that you know, think about it. If you're in that job, you must watch so many different examples of that to get it
Mhm.
right, so that your frame of reference is, yes, this fits into category 4. You know, there's probably 3 or 4 different categories of these that they deal with.
Yeah,
And I think as a group where they're watching in the back, I'm sure they say, I think that's a category, da, 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 whatever they call it. And they're like, watch here, this is what that makes that. And they got to make that decision. I would think within like 20 seconds to whether or not to challenge, which is a lot of pressure to be under.
yeah.
Maybe we should video
Um,
that. You should suggest to your bosses that it'd be fun to put a camera crew back there watching the video coaches go through that process. And if you just follow them for 3 or 4 or 5 games, I'm sure you'll come up with a few instances where you don't even hear about it because they choose not to challenge. But
right.
watching that process behind the scenes, I think, would be fascinating for
Oh,
fans.
there's no doubt about it. There's no doubt. Yeah. So maybe that's something we do in the future. We should do that and see what these guys are doing behind the scenes because they've got an important job.
You can
L-
take
l-
credit for it. I know you will. Just you go run with it.
It's my idea. It's my idea. So, well, hey, real quick before we let you go, the Edmonton Oilers without Leon Draisaitl, I know you've seen them play live, and they get shut out last night. Like, what do we have here in Edmonton?
We've got a team that I think, even if they squeak into the playoffs, the way that the West has gone this year, they could very well get to the conference final and get back to the final again.
Okay,
But their goaltending, everyone wants to point to their defensive lapses and things like that. The goalie is a part of your defense.
hmm
Like, I hate when people try to separate the goalie. Oh, the goalie played unbelievable. He's part of the defense. Like,
right.
yeah, they're going to give up chances, but they need, they're not even, in my opinion, they're not getting adequate goaltending. And
Does it
so,
remind you of your teams in St. Louis?
oh my goodness, I don't want to disparage who we had here, but we didn't have a salary cap, right? I think there was an opportunity for us to get Ed Belfour one of those years. I don't know if you remember
Hashuk,
back.
Hashuk too.
Hasek as well. We were right there. I mean, we were spending, our payroll was like 75 million or something crazy. and we just couldn't get over the top. And, I'm not saying anything negative about Brent Johnson and Roman Turek and all the plethora of goalies that came through during that time. But I think that was the one glaring issue we had as a group, and it really is unfortunate.
Yeah, and Brent Johnson was so young at the time. He was just coming into the league, and but that was the Blues' Achilles heel. And in comparison to the teams you're chasing, Colorado,
Yes,
Dallas, Detroit, those teams were all for the most part pretty loaded at the goaltending position. So, um, yeah, so that was a tough one, man, for sure. Um,
absolutely.
so we'll see how that plays out. Anything else catching your eye right now?
Oh, just the races of teams, particularly in the East. It's like really jumbled up there, and you're wondering like no one's really taking a stranglehold for in the West. Like what's going to happen there? Keep waiting for a team to go on a run, whether it's LA, San Jose, Utah has been playing well. Um, it's interesting what's happening, and it's like we're getting to the end of the road here for a lot of these teams, and I'm excited to see the last dozen games. Well, there's more than that, but the last dozen games, I think it's going to be a sprint, and it's going to be some fun hockey.
All right, this is what I wanted to ask you though, because you see it in the NBA, and I talked about this a bunch now, and I feel like these players now in the National Hockey League, they're closer than ever in terms of having friends all over the league. And the NBA, all these free agents, they kind of, team up with one another. They create these power teams. You saw it with Durant and, and with Golden State and what LeBron has done. And I just feel like we're headed there, Jamal. It's not going to surprise me, especially when you have the National Team Development Program, how close these guys are. They go to high school together, then coming out of the Olympics. I'm sure they're all talking like it'd be amazing to play with you or play with this guy. Um, and Brady Kachuk, Quinn Hughes, their contracts are coming up here shortly. Um, Austin Matthews, Connor McDavid, they're really good buddies. I just feel we're headed down that road where these guys, with the cap going up,
Yep, that's
they're
the
gonna
key.
try to play with one another, man.
Yeah, that's the key. Just mentioned it. The fact there's two things happening at the same time. They're closer in friends than we ever were. We were never allowed or able to talk to friends or people we knew on the ice or train together. None of that stuff happened. That the game has changed in that regard, right? For that reason, but most importantly, with the last point that you made, is because of the cap going up astronomically here in the next 3 years. That will allow you to have, in theory, under the cap, like 4 or 5 players making double digits.
Yeah.
You'll be able to fit a 10 million, a 12 million, a 15, and a 17, and still field a team. Like so that creates a really unique, different situation that has not happened in the NHL since before the cap,
Hmm.
where you're going to be able to, and I think the agents are going to be able to drive some of this potentially when they have similar clients. I think it'd be difficult if your agents, it'd be easier when it's JP Barry and a Pat Brisson group client, CAA client, than if you're not in the same group, right? It's going to be a little harder to do that, but these agents can make that happen with their clients. So I think if you really want to dive into it, my suggestion to you, Andy, would be to go out there and look at who are the agents for these guys, and then you could line them up probably a little bit easier. I do know that Judd Moldover does represent Matthews and
And
McDavid.
McDavid, yeah, he
And
does.
so when you have those instances and that consistency, I think that makes it easier for when it's one agent trying to figure that puzzle out for in talking to GMs.
Yeah, I know. No, Quinn Hughes, he's a Papersong guy. Brady Kachuk's a Craig Oster guy. But still, these guys are so close, and I get to see it. We saw it, I guess, a few years back with Minnesota with, Ryan Suter and Zach Parise, how on free agent day, they both signed massive deals together in Minnesota. Watch out for Minnesota, though, with Billy G, man. I mean, he obviously is going to want to keep Quinn, and he's going to want to add another guy. He's got Kaprizov making 17. So you're going to see a team like Minnesota, especially Billy G. This guy wants to win so badly. You're going to see these guys find a way to your point, to bring 3 or 4 superstars on a team at once, and these guys are best friends. They're gonna wanna play together. So,
Oh, I agree. Like think about it. Billy G would be like, "Hey, Quinn, what do we gotta do to get you to stay here? Okay, go get Brady. I'll go. Okay, we're gonna go get Brady. Call Big Walt.
Yeah.
Talk to Brady. Let's figure this out.
Yeah, I'm with you. All right, who brought you to Hockey Sense this week, Jammer? Who brings you every single week?
Well, let's talk about Barlino's. They got 5 restaurants: Barlino South, Barlino's Osteria, Chris's Pancake and Dining, Chris's at the Docket, and my favorite, Barlino's Twin Oaks. They forge many lasting relationships with their customers. Their family model: cook good food, serve plenty. 50 plus years in business, only 2 places to dine: at home or at one of Barlino's family of restaurants. And then obviously, my good friend Dustin Dobbs over at Dobbs Auto Tires. What's great about them, it doesn't matter what you drive, a car, light truck, EV, SUV, or hybrid, they will get your car in, up, diagnosed, fixed, and out the same day. They take care of you, doesn't matter who it is. I was the idiot that kept going to the construction site, blew out 2 tires, decided I'll still go back there, blew out a 3rd tire, ended up having to replace all 4 tires, but I wasn't without my car for more than 4 or 5 hours. They order the tire from a different location. They've got over 40 locations in town. They'll take care of you. They're honest. They make sure you get a tire that you need. You don't overpay, and they make sure they take care of you. Doesn't matter who it is. That's why you've got to love them. Go to Dobbs.com for more. And then finally, we've got Spas and More. They're a local master spas dealer with 2 locations: Sunset Hills here in Missouri and Overland Park in Kansas. Mike Leahy's the owner. His daughter, Angie Hess, runs the show there at the Sunset Hills location. Spas and More offers high-quality hot tubs, swim spas, cold tubs, and infrared saunas for all of your health, wellness, and relaxation needs. Turn your backyard oasis of your dreams with a master spas from Spas and More. Spas and More, located at 12957 Gravois Road in Sunset Hills, where we put the in
In
spa.
spa.
Oh, yeah. Did you get yourself
Hey,
a hot tub saying that every time?
maybe. We'll see.
I let you.
You,
I know
you'll be the first to know.
for sure Weasel did.
You'll be the first to know.
Love it.
All right, Jammer. Great stuff as always, man. I always appreciate it. Too bad you can't play in Chaser's event. Wish you were going to be in
I
time for
know.
that. But nonetheless, I know you're busy doing a lot of stuff, man. We always appreciate you taking the time, and we'll see you next week. I'll be in studio. Hopefully, you're back. You may be at USA Hockey Nationals. So much stuff happening next week, but I know I'll be talking to you, and the fans always enjoy it as well. So thanks for doing this.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me, buddy.
All right, bud.
Safe travels.
Yep, you too. All right, so that's Jammer, Jamal Mayers. David Backes is next here on Hockey Sense. Stay with us. All right, David Backes, back on the show. How's life in Nashville? Everybody's good over there in Nashville. The people want to know, David.
Yeah, we're doing well. Kids are getting some friend groups and established and found some community and staying busy. And you know what? And when it's mid-March and you've mowed the lawn twice already, that's a good climate to be in. So
I love how you actually get out there and mow the lawn. I can picture you on a riding tractor, riding lawnmower,
nailed it.
and just loving it. Is that like a peaceful time? Is it like therapeutic for you?
Absolutely. With the cowboy hat on, maybe sunglasses, and sometimes earbuds in, sometimes just me and my thoughts. But being on a lawnmower is a wonderful place to be.
How much do you miss hockey? Or are you completely content with your life right now and just doing what you're doing and enjoying life?
I would say I watched more hockey this year than I have any other year I've been retired. There were 2 years where I just detached completely and kind of was, I mean, I wasn't a slob, but I wasn't worried about what I ate, wasn't worried about working out, and just let my body heal from, being in a bunch of collisions over my career. And then I fell back in love with the game. And now I still skate weekly here. And my son started to play, coach him, and just love to watch the game, love to be a part of it, love to follow it now. The Olympics certainly didn't hurt anything, and the game's in a good place, I think, from the NHL standpoint.
Okay, I love that. And said you were a USA Olympian and such a big face of USA hockey during the course of your NHL career. Your reaction, how the whole tournament played out, man, to see USA win and all the hype leading into the tournament with all the star power they had and with Canada. The level of hockey we saw, was that as good as you've ever seen it?
It was game 7 playoffs, you know, maybe not in the prelim rounds, but once it was in the knockout rounds, even the European teams were really dialed into whatever it takes to, try to eke out a win, blocking tons of shots, playing physically. And then you got into the semifinals and you get into overtime games. I feel like there's got to be some sort of maybe amendment to that. And I'm not complaining. When we lost in 2010, it was 4-4, and this time it's 3-3 in overtimes. But you got to think in meaningful games like that, there's some sort of leeway to just say, let's do it like an NHL playoff game and let's play 5-on-5 till somebody breaks. And if it screws up the TV schedule, who cares? The longer it goes, probably the more people watch it, especially a noon game. If that doesn't get over till 5 o'clock and you got to delay the closing ceremonies, that means it's pretty dang epic. But that's my take on it. The hockey was phenomenal. US winning obviously is icing on the cake, and I was as happy as anyone and shed a couple tears as I frequently do. But that was so great, and just all the time, sweat, tears, generations of players that have come through since the last time U.S. was on top of men's hockey. Couldn't be more proud of what those guys did.
Where do you keep your silver medal?
My silver medal's in a Crown Royal bag that Ray Borelli gave me when I got to Phoenix after the Vancouver Olympics, in my safe at my home. And now my kids are 10 and 8, and they start to see Winter Olympics, and then I get to tell them a couple stories, and they start to think it's kind of cool. So this year, in my kids' school, my fifth grader, they do their own Winter Olympics thing. So I got to go in there, and I wore my closing ceremony outfit, costume as I call it, brought the silver medal in and got to tell a couple stories from the Olympics from before these kids were even alive, but good stories nonetheless in my mind, and they seem to have a good time.
I love it. Did you talk to anybody who was on the team? I mean, whether it was Matthew or Brady or anybody, did you reach out to anybody? Because I kept hearing like maybe some former USA hockey guys, were in touch with the current group.
Well, it's tough to, don't want to be a distraction, but messages to Wall for sure, and just how exciting it had to be, and good luck and enjoy himself, and then to be along the journey and to know those boys when I was new in St. Louis living with him, and those kids were playing floor hockey in their underwear in the basement, and now they're really the head of the monster for USA hockey. It makes me proud to know them and to see how far they've come and now what they've accomplished on the international stage, and really made a not just a name for himself, a brand for themselves. They've got a podcast that I think is fantastic too. And, it's just amazing how what the new generation of kids are up to, and USA hockey, and all the, Walt was a guy that I looked up to, and then getting to know Brady and Matthew, it's pretty cool.
All right. So speaking of podcasts, because Jack and Quinn Hughes just went on Brady and Matthew's podcast, and all this talk about the gold medal being in the Hall of Fame, and Jack wants his gold medal. Wait, are you getting caught up in that? Like, where should the gold medal be?
The gold medal.
I'm sorry, the puck, not the gold medal, but the puck. Does that belong in the Hall of Fame, or should that go to Jack?
That's a heck of a question. I think it should be Jack's property in the Hall of Fame for an agreed upon time. And I don't. You've got to think Jack Hughes is he's going to be okay with just his NHL money and endorsements on the side. He's really going to be okay now. Like Mike Eruzione, I don't know if he's done much, 9 to 5 since he scored that goal, and he's had speaking gigs, rightly so, and motivational speeches and all the things. But Jack's going to be okay. It's a cool memento, probably an heirloom and a piece of American, history now. I think if it's his property and that's a spot where he can display it and maybe grab it every now and then if he really needs it for an occasion, I think that's an agreeable solution. But I certainly think that's his property.
All right. So you're in Nashville. George Peros is there, and it's a tough job. I was joking with you before you came on. I said, would you ever want to be the in charge of player safety? Because I feel like you could do it. Like just how intelligent you are, and just how serious you would take the job. I think you would be in great hands if you ever wanted to do that. I don't know who would want to do it. It's a thankless job, but you know, like goaltender interference, for example. Like you're saying you're watching more hockey. When you see goaltender interference and some of these goals that are called back, I mean, where are we with this, David? Is it confusing as much as, for you as much as for everybody else?
Beyond confusing, and it was
Yeah.
confusing when I was still playing, and it's such a gray area that it's probably always gonna be confusing, and where are we? A lot of times it feels like we're flipping a coin, and even when I played, it was like, you're involved in it, you look at it on the monitor, and you go, "I don't know, we'll see what this one happens," When I was on the rules committee, I even forget what it was called, but, um I there was some committee where we talk about rules every summer, and um, one of the things was let's clarify this, and it was like inside the blue paint, if there's any contact inside the blue paint or the plane of the blue paint. So if the blue paint was a semicircle going straight up, then and the player's butt's hanging in the goalie's crease and there's contact, well, that's the goalie's area. And if it's contact outside of there, and the goalie initiates it or there's any contact, well, then the tie's going to go to the skater that's in front of him screening the goalie. And for a guy who stood there a lot, I wanted to be as close to the top of the paint as I could without obviously getting goals called back, keep the goalie further back in the net, and best chance to take away his vision. So it's a valuable sliver of ice that's there. Uh, I just there's no black and white to this rule. I don't think Georgia has anything to do with those moments, but for goalie interference, it would be wonderful for them to, and we always ask this as players, like, give us examples, right? It was the blindside hit, the Matt Cook hit that we're all like, well, what if, the player's headed back to, he's retreating, or you've got all these, he's going diagonally and he's kind of running in. So how do I hit that guy? Um, all these items where it's like players are very adaptable. They just need to know what the line is because they're going to go as close to the line as they can.
Hmm. What's the solution?
I think you gotta find 20 clips of goalie interference and and explain every one of them and the thought process behind the decision. Because during the game, you obviously get a goal, no goal decision, but then after the game, you might get another sentence of explanation, but not like sit down and let's discuss, how this could have gone differently. Like if I'm being aided into the goal by the defenseman, but how much? Do I have to like turn my skates perpendicular to try to actually stop? Or so many of these things that if you just made it black and white, I think it would be better for the game and clearer for both, you know, management, player, goalie. They would all be able to adapt and make it better, but it's still going to be unique case here and there. And in the one-offs, same thing with the offside, like the heel of his skate, we're like zooming in. I think my best amendment to this rule is this: it goes to Toronto. Toronto gets 20 seconds to look at it. If you can't make it clear, definitive result in 20 seconds, call stands on the ice, keep playing.
Or offsides?
Offsides, goalie interference, high stick. If it's not egregious or wrong enough that you can't make that decision and watching the replay and one more angle, yeah, we know for sure, call back. Or you say, I'm still not sure. Let's zoom in. Let's put it at 10, 1x or whatever. Let's slow it down to super slow mo and zoom in. You know what? I think that's a high stick. And now let's get a reference point to the crossbar. And it's 3, 4 minutes later, the momentum of the game's ruined. And it's like, are we going to get it right? Still doesn't feel right at the end. So if it's not egregiously wrong, play it as it lies and let's keep playing the game.
How many times were you suspended? I mean, you're always near the league leaders in hits. So were you ever suspended?
Twice.
Twice.
Both in Boston, actually. Um, And I always say, like, early in my career, some of the games we played in St. Louis when we were terrible weren't even on TV. Like a Wednesday night in Columbus, you could get away with physical assault and no one's going to review what happened. And I
Because nobody saw it.
yeah, exactly. And it was like, what's the replay? And it's a security camera mounted on the top of the roof that you're watching the game on because there's not a million television cameras in the rink. Now everything's televised in HD. Um, but yeah, 2 hits. One was on Blake Coleman that actually suspended me for the only outdoor game I would have been able to play in at Notre Dame.
Uh,
What was the other it was in both of them were one was a high or Franz Nielsen maybe was a high hit, and even in the hearing, it was said that Franz said that it was he wasn't really hurt, but they were out of the playoffs, so he just kinda stayed out of the game, but he was totally fine, and I still got that was my first one was 2 games, and then the second one was 3 games for, Coleman, and that took me out of the Winter Classic.
both were while you were in Boston?
Yeah.
How did that God, I don't remember that. What was that like not being I told you can't play in that outdoor game because especially even back then, it was such a big deal, like, such an event,
Yeah.
relatively new, you know?
Well, and you don't get suspended for 2 or 3 games till 2 or 3 games right before the event. So I joke, I'm like, that was like a $30,000 on top of missing my pay because I had flights for my parents, for my wife, for my kids into South Bend to go to this. I had an Airbnb for them. We had tickets, we had friends coming, and then it's like, oh, it was against Chicago, and I think they let me do warm-ups just so I could go out on the ice and kind of have some of the experience, but it was a joke. But
So you could take a picture.
yeah, exactly. So I could feel the cold air on my face while I skated outdoors.
Who you say you're watching a lot of hockey. Who do you love watching right now?
Uh, I I'm not necessarily honed in on teams, more of like just guys I played with and guys that I still have relationships with. Seeing how they're looking, how they're moving. Maybe like top teams in the league to see just what kind of style they're playing. A Colorado, Dallas type of team that's really humming. And then playoff hockey is can't miss TV for me.
Like your boy Charlie McAvoy, who gets hit in the face with a puck like every other game. It's crazy.
Yeah, I had a short stint like that. Um, Osh had the slapper that got deflected in front of me, hit me in the upper lip, and made ground beef on my lip for a little while. And then I was coming back from that, um, Bufflin hit me in the same lip with the heel of his stick and split it open again. And I had those same feelings of like, what did I do wrong to have all this bad luck piled up? Like my lower lip. Thankfully, the dental fractures for me were half my teeth, and I mean, poor Charlie. He's like his tongue can't stop licking his teeth and his lips, and speech is tough. And out of all the injuries I had, I'm so grateful that I don't have to have jaw surgery or mouth surgery or missing teeth or missing jawbone for the rest of my life. Even Walt, at the end of his career, where he had to take part of his hip and put it in his jaw. Like he still talks about that being painful and miserable for him.
Worst injury. That retired Keith Kachuk, you know? That he was done after that. Although the puck went in, he still got a goal off of it. You know, Oshie hit him in the face too. Hey, of course, Jack Hughes, iconic picture with missing a tooth and the flag draped around him, man. That'll be a picture that we'll see forever. That's unbelievable. Hey, what do you think? You said Osh. Or go ahead, go ahead.
Well, back to the player safety thing. I don't want the job. I will not put my hat in the ring if it's available. George has done it. I mean, you must be 10 years into the job if
Since 2017.
so there you go. He's coming up on 10 years. At least there's consistency in the job. Remember when it was like it's Shanny and now it was like so many different hands on it, and then the consistency was even worse. So I don't want the job. But I do think we've got all these seemingly, criteria for this is the incident, this is the infraction, here's the base amount of suspension we're going to add. this because you're a repeat offender. We're going to add another game or two because this player was injured on the play. What they never factor in is that, okay, this you weren't ejected and you answered the bell. So, okay, player atoned to the first guy coming at him and he answered the bell. We're going to reduce the suspension by 1 game because he answered the bell rather than cowering away. And not that, that's everything, but that's the way we used to police the game is that now it's George Peros or Kelly Chase or Tony Twist barking down your throat and you're physically petrified to try, to do anything egregious like that anymore. And or you answer the bell, you get the wheels pounded off you, and they feel like they got their pound of flesh back, and maybe reduced a game isn't the worst thing. Um, a lot of times too, those suspensions, it's like, okay, I hit a guy from St. Louis and I get suspended and I'm playing for Nashville. Well, I'm not playing St. Louis for the next 5 games. So our team's actually at a disadvantage, and that sucks for our team, but it puts all these other teams at an advantage. It does nothing for St. Louis again. There's no direct benefit back to the team who had the player that was taking the liberty on him. So there's something to be said there. I don't know how you'd rectify that, but those are my deep thoughts for this Friday. I appreciate it.
And you never played with Gudis, right?
Yeah, I forget, he was maybe Philly or where did he start? Washington? I don't know, but
Washington.
he had a couple of years where it was like everything he did was over the line and he didn't control himself. Um, and then it seemed like he was back on a path to like what happened? I don't know how, or he dialed it back to level 8 instead of level 12, and he was inside the lines for a while. Then a knee on knee hit against a pretty prominent player that ends that player's season. Um, 5 games is still a pretty stiff suspension. So for something that's not with your stick, is it a hockey play? I mean, it's not really a hockey play, but reaction when you're going to hit a guy, and Matthews is a bigger man than Gudas, so he's probably really prepping and needs to hit and make that hit square on and with a lot of force. And now Matthews shifts just a little bit and he's trying to get a piece of him. I've done it. I've stuck my leg out, guilty as anybody. Um, and some of those you get knee and shoulder into the guy, and it looks a lot better than just when there's contact in the knee. But anyway, not great for anybody.
Yeah, I'm glad you pointed that out because Matthews did shift a little bit. And listen, in Gudis' defense, like he hadn't been suspended in over 7 years. He's the captain of the team. Like this guy plays the game. He like single handedly kept Czechia in the game against Canada. And I know he injured, Sidney Crosby, but he was like unbelievable in that game.
With a good clean hit, I mean, he kind of crumbles and maybe a little vulnerable at the time, but there's nothing bad about that hit. And you're right. He's captain of a team that's been irrelevant for way too long. Like
Yeah.
a healthy 8, 9 years, the Anaheim Ducks have been off the map. They get Coach Quenneville there and maybe a couple veteran players that can lead these younger kids, and a force to be reckoned with in the West, first place, and doing a really good job there in South California.
Yeah, all right, a couple more things with David Backes, and then we'll let you go. Obviously, you're coming into town. We want to get your take on that, obviously, to support Kelly Chase and what's going on. We're looking forward to seeing you back in St. Louis. I know the fans will be as well. To see number 42 back in St. Louis is going to be a lot of fun for the fans. Hey, but Eric Johnson, you got Osh. I mean, they're all doing television now, David. Like, I want you to break it down. Like, did you see television in their future? And is it kind of crazy now these guys that you came into the National Hockey League with that are, kind of getting into their second careers?
Yeah, I want to know who their agent is. They went right from playing right between the benches and in game breaking it down. Oshan, I mean ESPN, both of them. It was, and I didn't even know EJ was going to be on there. So I was watching the game like, there's Eric Johnson. He got his stibs fixed, and I don't know what kind of dental implants he's got in his upper jaw, but good work to whoever did that. And um, Osh, I think I've seen growth in him, and just this year, his first couple appearances. I feel like he was probably overthinking, and now I mean, he knows the game inside and out from a skill level better than anyone. And then how hard he played, he can break down those plays and strategy. Extremely smart human, and so he does a fantastic job. And then I just saw the one game with EJ between the benches, and um, even talking to EJ when he was playing without half his mouth in was kind of tough to understand him. And now he's got teeth again, and he's very articulate and doing a nice job. And it's just awesome to see kind of some young blood hopping in there and keeping it light and being able to explain new NHL tactics the way that they are.
Yeah, no, I love it. Hey, real quick, all the guys that you came into the NHL with, because that era of Blues hockey was amazing. All these young guys coming in, David Perron, obviously you, Petro, EJ, Bergie, Osh, all these guys that came in. Lars Eller was here for a little bit, Ian Cole. Who were like when you sit back and you look at it, like who are you like? I don't want to say most proud of, but are you like, wow, this guy? It's amazing the career that he had. I mean, EJ first overall pick, Osh, obviously everyone knew his talent, but is there a guy who you just sit back and you just it puts a smile on your face to see him go on and have the career that he's had?
I would say David Perron is a guy that, coming in could have easily been like ostracized and pushed to the side, and a guy that needed a lot of mentoring. He was on the fast track, a guy that wasn't even, playing at the highest level he could have been playing at before he was drafted, and then comes in with all his white skates and gloves and needed to be a flashy Frenchman out there to, you know, getting his feet wet in the NHL in St. Louis, and then going to Edmonton and kind of getting a wake up of like, oh, things were pretty good there in St. Louis. Edmonton's kind of a disaster with all these first overall picks that all they care about is themselves. Really learning the team game and how to win, going back to St. Louis a couple more times, winning a cup there. He's a guy that really, I think, I don't know, he's at 11, 1,200 games now and still doing it. Just got traded to Detroit to go back there to hopefully help them do a little something in the playoffs. Yeah, he's probably a guy that I'm really proud of, that I had a little piece of early in his career, kind of just shaking him a couple times and being like, Harry, we gotta sort this out. Like, you're worried about all the wrong stuff. We gotta dial you into what really matters. And to his credit, he really, bought in, and he's had one heck of a career for himself.
Yeah, you did too. You were such an amazing leader. What about Steiner taking over as general manager? Like, could you have seen that when he's a player? Like, could you see this guy running a team one day? He's about to do it.
Yeah, I think, I've said in other interviews, I think from a tactical and a technical hockey standpoint, I mean, he was trying to educate Hitch on some stuff when we were playing with like, no, we need to make this adjustment. He's an extremely bright hockey mind. He was brought up in the hockey world with his dad being an NHLer. He's got a lot of qualifications. He played forever, played for a few different organizations. So he's seen all aspects of it. And, he's learned from Army on the job. And it sounds like there's going to be a couple safety nets around him. So that's all bodes well. And, now it's to take what assets the Blues have and put his stamp on the team to make it an even more, successful endeavor that's consistent, that pleases the Blues fan into, getting in the arena, getting the support, and then deep playoff runs certainly cure all of that.
Yeah. All right. So I'm reading between the lines with you though. Like you took some time off. Now you're watching more hockey than ever. Um, Maybe you're missing it a little bit. You're watching the game all the time. Well, what do you see yourself doing, David? 3 years from now, 5 years from now, like you want to get back into the game? I mean, is that something you could see yourself doing?
Yeah, I think so. I think the position would have to be right, that um as much as I love the game, my kids are, 10 and 8, and I don't want to. When I played, I missed so much of their stuff because it was, what ran my world. I would love to have a part of the game, but still still be able to be there as dad and be present with their achievements and milestones and all the things that come with raising kids. But yeah, if I could have my cake and eat it too, that would be fantastic. Just haven't found that perfect sweet spot yet. And then certainly when my kids, you know, think I'm just annoying and I'm around all the time, then there'll be a perfect time for me to jump into something deeper.
Okay, I know that opportunity is going to come for you for sure. All right, you're coming into St. Louis, the Puck Cancer event. How much do you look forward to kind of getting back in the locker room, being around the guys, and getting in front of the St. Louis fans again?
Yeah, I'm excited to be back in town. See the fans, see all the alumni that shows up, all the other people that support Chaser and his continued battle. You know, Dirks Bentley skates with us here in Nashville, and he's been to the event a couple times. So happy to hear what his or his angle on the event was and how much fun it was, and also the support of Chaser and uh, you know, the cards he's been dealt, but dealt with them valiantly and really combating it head on the way that you would expect him to. And to show that support, to be back in St. Louis. I've never skated at Centene, so excited to get my skates on the ice, and yeah, hopefully I can not make a fool out of myself too bad.
All right, you're gonna love it. Will you make a Blues game? Like they play on Wednesday and they play on Thursday and Saturday. Are you gonna stick around for a game or no?
I don't know. My plan was to drive in Friday, so I could be probably convinced to go, but we'll see how long the leash can get there.
Yeah. Okay. Because Toronto's here Saturday.
Okay, who's here? Who's there Thursday?
San Jose, Celebrini, and
And
so and Revo, who may get to 1,000 games, which is one of the most amazing stories in NHL history. I don't know. If he's getting close. He's around 955 right now, but there's been some games he hasn't been playing as much as of late. We'll see. You know,
that would be an awesome story too. A guy that's played that role and to get to 1,000 games
it's
is
crazy.
incredible.
How's your health? You feel good?
Feel great. Feel like I'm in really good shape, working out 5 days a week and keep my mind busy and staying active and yeah, raising kids, still doing athletes for animals, and Kelly and I do that together. So it's yeah, we're trying to find our new normal and what kind of rhythms we can fit into.
How many animals are in your house right now?
Currently, our two resident dogs, then we have a foster mama who previously had 7 puppies, but those have all gone to other fosters. So there was a time when there was 10, just 3 at the moment.
Okay. All
Yes.
right, DB. Listen, man, always great catching up with you. Look forward to seeing you next week. Hopefully, you stick around. We can bring you on TV during a game, and so you got to let me know if you do. But otherwise, I'll see you Friday at Centene. It should be a lot of fun.
Sounds good. Looking forward to catching up with you, everyone else, and yeah, can't wait for it.
All right, Dave. Thanks for doing this, buddy. Appreciate it.
Yep.
All right, so that was David Backes. Always a great conversation with David, man. I appreciate his insights, his intelligence, how he sees the game. This guy is just too smart and too good of a hockey man to just be sitting on the sidelines. And he'll be back involved working in hockey before too long. He kind of gave us a little bit of a teaser there. So I would imagine he's going to have plenty of options. Looking forward to seeing what David does. Hey, I want to give a shout out real quick. Um, you've heard me talk about Mars Blade. I wear the Mars Blade hat. I wear the Mars Blade hoodie all the time. Um, Herb Mars, who is the founder of Mars Blade, passed away last Friday. I just want to send my deepest condolences to everyone at Mars Blade. Obviously, his family, his closest friends. Just shocking news that has rocked the hockey world. Um, as Herb Mars is no longer with us, man. We are thinking about his family, and we are so sorry that this has happened. And anybody out there who you're dealing with anything, um, make sure you it's okay to reach out to somebody, talk to somebody. Um, but we are certainly thinking about everybody at Mars Blade. This guy was such an inspiration to so many people. Love talking the science of skating with him, the way that he talked skating with such passion. And he put all of that passion into his company, Mars Blade, for it to become what it is today. My son wears his inline skates. A lot of NHL players are wearing the holders. He was so excited to talk about the holders um, that he had developed through Mars Blade. I've got the inline skates too. It just broke my heart, man, to hear this news. So, again, we are thinking about everybody with Mars Blade and certainly his family. We thank Jamal Mayers for joining us on this edition of Hockey Sense. Um, obviously, David Backes for also joining us. It's the Blues and the Vancouver Canucks Saturday afternoon, 4 o'clock local time start here. St. Louis, 6 o'clock. We'll have the pregame show for you, Jamie Rivers and I, at 5:30. Then the Blues come home for 3 games: Washington, San Jose, Toronto. Those should be some real exciting games at the Enterprise Center, so get your tickets for that. And hopefully we'll see everybody out there at the Puck Cancer event to support Kelly Chase and obviously cancer that has affected so many different people. First Community brings us Hockey Sense each and every week. I don't know if you've been car shopping lately, but those dealer lots are full again. So all the snow that we had, dealers have lots of cars, new and used. First Community, a great place to get your loan. And I am telling you, number one, auto lending in the area month after month, and there's a reason for that. They are truly the best. Huge network of local dealers they work with. So what that means to you is that you can car shop, find a car you really want, close in on the loan using First Community without even having to leave the dealership. It's that simple. So pay attention because this is important. They have the same rate, whether you're buying a new or used car. That is almost unheard of. You're not going to find that at most lenders, but check it out for yourself. Go ahead. Ask the folks at the dealer about the best rates, and it's probably going to be First Community. All right, Dirt Cheap Fun Fun, your one-stop party shop, Lordo's Diamonds. Our friends over at Easy Tiger. Love having them on board. Frontenac Detailing, Kirkwood Fence, everybody. Blue Note Roofing, David Novak, baby, 314-920-5713. Blue Note Roofing. David Novak is the absolute best. Deals with all the biggest insurance companies to get you the best deal. Little secret, little Hockey Sense secret for you. If your roof is approaching 10 years of age, now's the best time to get that new roof. Some insurance companies won't pay for it once it gets to 10 years. So if it's 8 years old, get that free estimate. You might need a new roof and do it through Blue Note Roofing and do it now while the insurance company's going to pay for it. 314-920-5713. David Novak, big supporter of hockey in St. Louis. Look for that big yellow truck with the blue note, that old school, iconic musical note that you find on his truck. Again, David Novak, 314-920-5713. Blue Note Roofing, baby, brings us Hockey Sense each and every week here from Half Coast Studios. All right, for David Backes, for Jamal Mayers, for Aiden in the studio, this has been Hockey Sense, presented by First Community. I'm Andy Strickland, reminding you to keep your head up and your stick on the ice. We go year-round here from Half Coast Studios. Have a great weekend, St. Louis. We'll talk to you next week.